hey, look at these 5 albums. Apple Music says they're 5 of the best albums of all time. Are they right? I don't know. Number 75, Missy Elliott, Super Duper Fly. Missy Elliott, aka the Gmail cosplayer, aka the original Hawk Tuah girl.
Silence when I spit it out.
This is solid stuff, man. I don't have much to say about it, to be honest. Missy's flow is pretty unique. Timbaland's is on here doing his thing with the sampled mouth sounds. It's a good time. I think as a debut album, it's incredible. A few notes, though, that I had. I can't stand the song I Can't Stand the Rain, ironically. Quite a few tracks in a row about how Timbaland and Missy are the greatest, which kind of gets annoying after like the second or third one. Friendly Skies is an absolute banger of a slow jam. Genuine is doing genuine ass stuff on it with the vocoder and going nuts. And Missy gets to show off her vocal chops on it, which are quite impressive. Back half of the album is kind of unremarkable, but not necessarily in a bad way. It's a fun time, it's a solid album, 74 out of 100. 74, 9 Inch Nails, The Downward Spiral. Oh boy. So first off, I'm not a 9 Inch Nails guy, despite it being on the surface absolutely my bag. I'm familiar with some of Trent Reznor's work in 9 Inch Nails and in film scores and video games and all other stuff, but I've never dove deep on 9 Inch Nails stuff specifically. This album then is a concept album where you're following a man reaching his lowest, most unstable end. And it feels that way too. From start to finish, you feel like you're being sucked down into a dark abyss with this person. That goes for lyrically and sonically. The album is a hard listen, for me at least. I take sertraline because I'm prone to depressive and anxious downward spirals, and it can mess with my head for days at a time, and this album felt like walking to the edge of that mental hole in my brain and just staring into it. Music doesn't have to make you feel good, but I was uncomfortable personally at how bad this album made me feel. But that's not to say that it is a bad album. Even past the standout tracks of Closer and Hurt, songs like The Becoming are complex compositions rendered terrifyingly. The engineering and technical aspects of this album are insane. Trent Reznor is pushing some of this technology until it feels like it is literally screaming. The way that the early stages of the song Hurt sound like they're clipping, like it's too loud for your ears, but they're also slightly soft, is a masterstroke. I struggle to separate how this album made me feel and how I felt anyway before putting it on, if you follow my meaning. This album is frightening, troubling, incredibly sad, but also exciting and one of a kind. I will never listen to it in its entirety again for fear that it makes me tumble into that hole I was talking about. 90 out of 100. Number 73, Steely Dan, Asia. That's not how you write the word Asia. Come on, Dan. You're better than this. Christ, what a piece of whiplash it was going from 9 Inch Nails to this. It genuinely made me feel like I was going mad. An album is not the sum of its parts. This album features legendary jazz saxophonist Wayne Shorter, drummer Bernard Purdie, he of the eponymous Shuffle, bassist Chuck Rainey, who played bass for Etta James and Aretha Franklin, and a great many other influential session musicians. But unfortunately, the album frequently felt really bland. There's bursts of cool shit now and then. I like it when the album gets a bit more jazzy and a little funky. I Got the News was probably my favourite track on the whole album. I didn't like the way that some of it was mixed. Admittedly, that's a minor quibble, but it's just another thing on top of the fact that I didn't really dig it that much. I can tell this album will be influential to a lot of people, but we're not talking about the most influential album. We're talking about the best. In my opinion, 58 out of 100. Number 72, SZA, SOS. I should have looked up how to say that before we started. This is an album of two halves. Firstly, it opens with just an absolute screamer of a track. The title track, SOS, is, oh, Jesus. And then follows it up with yet another incredible track. What an incredible opener. The only thing I'd ever heard of SZA before this was one of her songs was quite popular on like TikTok and Reels and YouTube Shorts and stuff, but apart from that, this was my first introduction to her, and fucking hell. There are loads of great modern R&B songs on this, loads of cool stuff going on. Then about halfway through, it just flips. Starting with Ghost in the Machine at track 12, The album starts bringing in influences from interesting places. There's acoustic pop, a bit of indie rock in there too. It's a fascinating twist and I really enjoyed it. This album does feature Travis Scott, whose album Astroworld is currently the lowest ranked album on this list so far by me at 18 out of 100, but he doesn't really subtract at all from the track that he's on. Although, I don't think he really adds much either. It would have been fine without him. I wonder if there's been a bit of recency bias with this album in terms of Apple putting it on their list. As well, it contains some fantastic music and is undoubtedly great. It feels too soon for it to be this high up on a list like this, personally. I will say this though, and excuse my ignorance to her stuff for now, I am really looking forward to hearing more of her back catalogue after this, and I think she's got another album coming out like this year. I'm pretty excited to hear it. Another fantastic surprise from the list, 82 out of 100. Number 71, Kraftwerk Trans-Europe Express. I feel there's always one album on each of these videos that I'm worried I'm going to make someone really mad about. And sorry, Kraft fans, I think this might be the one. Look, I'm into production and audio tech and all that. It's what I studied in college, and I'm putting it to such good use. And I fully understand how groundbreaking and ahead of the curve Kraftwerk were. There's absolutely no doubting how influential and important they are, and this album is. But this album though, the word I keep thinking about it is silly. It feels a bit daft, if I'm honest. Partly that's because the style has been aped and done to a lesser quality by hundreds and hundreds of people, tainting the legacy of the album somewhat. But it's also repetitive in quite a boring way. Good songwriting should be timeless, but I think the songs on this aren't great in terms of songwriting, and as such, it sounds really aged. Sorry, Kraft heads, 47 out of 100. Another 5 albums. I should never sing. My advice to you is never sing. Ever.